Welcome to the last and the final session of literacy linguistics. And we will talk about inclusive literacy education demands diverse texts reflecting varied experiences, explicit teaching of cultural references and the background knowledge, and critical discussions about whose stories get told and whose perspectives are marginalized. By acknowledging that literacy itself is culturally situated, shaped by values about what counts as reading, what texts matter, and how literacy should be used, we create classrooms where all students can see themselves as capable, valued readers and writers. Sociolinguistic awareness transforms literacy instruction from a monocultural enterprise into a celebration of linguistic and cultural diversity. Language acquisition and literacy development. First, language acquisition. Children acquire their first language with remarkable speed and efficiency. Processing from babbling to complex sentences within a few years. Multiple theoretical frameworks explain this process. Behaviorists emphasize imitation and reinforcement, while nativists like Chomsky propose innate language capacity. Interactionist theories highlight the crucial role of social interaction and the communicative need for literacy education understanding. uh, L level one acquisition reveals that children bring enormous linguistic knowledge to reading instruction. They possess thousands of words in their overall vocabulary, intuitive grammar, and sophisticated pragmatic skills. Effective literacy in instruction builds on these existing foundations, connecting written language to familiar spoken forms that rather than treating readers and reading as entirely new learning. Second, language acquisition. Learning additional languages follows different trajectories than first language acquisition. Age of acquisition, motivation, instruction, quality, and opportunities for interaction all influence outcomes. Key concepts include comprehensible input language just beyond the current level, effective factors, anxiety and confidence, and transfer effects where level one knowledge aids or interferes with level two learning. These insights shape literacy instruction for English learners who must simultaneously develop English proficiency and the literacy skills. Research supports bilingual education approaches that build literacy first in students' home language, transferring these skills to English, though political realities often prevent such programs. Birth to 2 years, phonological development, first word vocabulary explosion to word combinations, 3 to 5 years, the complex grammar, narrative skills, meta linguistic awareness, immerse concepts of brand. From 6 to 8 years, the coding skills develop. Reading fluency begins, writing conventions learned. From 9 to 12 years, reading to learn, academic vocabulary growth, complex comprehension. Adolescence, critical literacy, sophisticated analysis, discipline, specific language mastery. Supporting English learners and multilingual students requires understanding both their linguistic assets and needs. These students often possess meta-linguistic awareness from navigating multiple languages, cognitive flexibility, and rich cultural knowledge. However, they face challenges including limited English vocabulary, inference from level one grammar, lack of background knowledge about US culture, and the cognitive load of processing content in their non-dominant language. Effective literacy strategies for ELs includes explicit vocabulary and instruction with visual supports and cognate analysis, sheltered instruction, making content comprehensible through scaffolds, opportunities for oral language development, validation of home language use, and extra time for proceeding and responding. Teachers must distinguish between social conversational English developed in first to 2 years and academic language proficiency requires 5 to 7 years, avoiding the mistake of exiting students from support too early based on conversational fluency alone. Child directed speech, the special register caregivers use with young children, featuring simplified grammar, exaggerated intonation, and repetition, plays a crucial role in language acquisition and cognitive development. This speech style appears across cultures, suggestion, biological adaptation for literacy, understanding how children learn through scaffold language interactions, inform instructional approaches, just as parents intuitively provide language at the right level of challenge. Effective literacy teachers calibrate an instruction to each student's zone of proximal development, providing support that gradually releases as competence grows, recognizing language acquisition as a social interactive process reminds us that literacy develops not through isolated skills practice, but through meaningful engagement with texts, ideas, and responsive teaching. Literacy assessment and data-driven instruction. Assessment forms the backbone of effective literacy instruction, providing the evidence needed to match teaching to learning needs, rather than teaching predetermined curriculum, regardless of student readiness. Responsive educators use assessment data to identify strengths, pinpoint specific skills, gaps, monitor progress, and adjust instruction dramatically. This data-driven approach transforms teaching from guesswork into precision intervention. Screening assessments, brief universal measures administered to all students to identify those at risk for reading difficulties. Examples include DIPLS, aim sweep, and easy CPM. Screening occurs 2 to 3 times yearly using bench marks to flag students needing intervention. Quick administration, 5 to 10 minutes per student. Focus on predictive early literacy skills. Identify at-risk students for deeper assessment. Progress monitoring, frequent repeated measures, tracking student growth over time, typically for students receiving intervention administered weekly or bi-weekly using parallel forms. Progress monitoring reveals whether interventions are working or need adjustments. Pre-probes measuring targeted skills, grab data showing growth trajectories, session rules for intensifying or fading support. Diagnostic assessments, comprehensive in-depth measures, identifying specific skill deficits and instructional needs. Examples include the phonological awareness batteries, decoding inventories, spelling analysis, and comprehension assessments. Resulting guide intervention planning, detailed skill analysis across literacy components, hypothesis testing about learning difficulties, direct links to international recommendations. Using assessment data to inform instruction requires systematic analysis and decision-making protocols. After screening, educators examine results to determine which students fall below benchmark, warranting additional support. Diagnostic assessment then profiles these students' specific strengths for and needs. For example, a third grader reading below level might slow stronger phonological awareness, but weak phonics knowledge, indicating need for systematic decoding instruction rather than broadening reading inventions. Progress monitoring data guides instructional adjustments to adjustment through decisions roles. If a student growth trajectory suggests they will meet years and the goals, current intervention continues. If progress is insufficient despite several weeks of intervention, instruction must change for perhaps increasing intensity, modifying instructional approach, or addressing a different skill deficit. This responsive prevent wasting time on ineffective instruction. Individualized education plans, IEPs, for students with disabilities rely heavily on assessment data to establish present levels of performance, set measurable annual goals, and document progress. Legally defensible IEPs include baseline data, specific measurable objectives, methods for monitoring progress, and criteria for goal attainment. For example, rather than vague goals like improve reading, effective IEPs specify given grade level passages. Students will read 90 words correct per minute with 95% accuracy by May, as measured by weekly curriculum-based measures. Case studies eliminate assessment-driven literacy intervention. Consider Marcus, a fifth grade, reading at second grade level. Universal screening flagged him. Diagnostic assessment revealed a strong oral vocabulary and comprehension, but severe decoding deficits and dyslexia. Indicators intervention focused on intensive systematic phonics using multisensory methods. Weekly progress monitoring tracked his growth in decoding nonsense words and real words. After 12 weeks, his decoding accuracy improved significantly, though fluency remained below target. Remoting addition of repeated reading practice by year end, Marcus read grade level text, transforming his academic trajectory. This success story resulting from assessment-driven decisions making at every step. The power of data-driven literacy instruction. Designing literacy instruction evidence-based strategies. Translating research into practice requires a deep understanding of evidence-based instructional strategies and the skill to weave them into engaging effective lessons. Effective literacy instruction is both systematic, following a logical scope and sequence, and responsive, adjusting to students' needs, revealed through ongoing assessment. This section explores core instructional techniques that accelerate literacy development across diverse learners. Multisensory teaching techniques. Multisensory instruction engages visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile pathways simultaneously, strengthening neural connections and memory for phonemic awareness. Students might manipulate colored blocks representing sounds while saying them aloud. For letter formation, they trace letters in sand or shaving cream while verbalizing the stroke sequence. The Orton Gillingham approach exemplifies multisensory phonics. Students see letter cards, hear sounds, say sounds, and write letters simultaneously, often using air writing, sandpaper letters, or arm tapping to reinforce learning. Research shows multisensory methods benefit all learners, but prove especially powerful for students with dyslexia who process phonological information inefficiently through auditory channels alone. By providing multiple pathways to the same information, we ensure concepts reach long-term memory. Integrating literacy components. Reading, writing, spelling, vocabulary, grammar, and oral language develop synergistically, not in isolation. Integrated instruction leverages these connections. A lesson might begin with phonemic awareness, blending sounds to make a word, progress to phonics, reading words with that pattern, incorporate spelling, writing those words from dictation, extend to vocabulary discussion, words, meanings, and culminate in reading connected text featuring target words. Grammar instruction connects to writing as students apply concepts to their compositions. Oral language activities, retelling stories, discussing texts, giving presentations, build vocabulary and comprehensive while developing speaking skills. This integration is both efficient, covering more ground in limited time, and effective, reinforcing concepts through multiple exposures in varied contexts. Avoid fragmented instruction that teaches isolated skills without connection to authentic reading and writing. Scaffolding from decoding to comprehension. Effective lessons scaffold learning from foundational to advanced skills, providing support that gradually releases as students gain competence. A well-designed reading lesson might begin with fluency building through repeated reading of familiar text, automaticity in decoding progress to introduction of new vocabulary from upcoming text, pre-teaching challenging words, including teacher modeling of comprehension strategies. I'm wondering why the character acted that way. Let me read to find close, provide guided practice where students apply strategies with teacher support and culminates with independent practice. This gradual release of responsibility, I do, we do, you do, ensures students do not flounder independently before they are ready. For struggling readers, scaffolds might include decodable texts, carefully controlled vocabulary matching thought patterns, graphic organizers for comprehension, and the subject questioning. As competence develops, scaffolds fade but don't disappear entirely. Even skilled readers benefit from pre-reading discussions and strategic prompts for challenging texts. Planning exemplary literacy lessons requires attention to pacing, engagement, explicit instruction, and formative assessment. Strong lessons begin with clear objectives. Today, we will learn to decode words with consonant blends, include brief warm-ups, reviewing previously learned skills, introduce new content through explicit teaching with ample modeling, provide substantial guided and independent practice, and conclude with formative assessment, checking understanding effective teachers, anticipate misconceptions, prepare corrective feedback, and design practice activities at appropriate challenge levels. Differentiation ensures all students across grade level content while receiving targeted support. This might mean flexible grouping by skill level for phonics instruction, tired reading materials at varied complexity levels, or extension activities for advanced learners. The goal is moving all students forward from their current performance levels, not teaching one size fits all curriculum that leaves struggling learners build while boring advanced readers. Literacy and language in special education. Since students with disabilities bring diverse learning profiles requiring tailored literacy instruction that addresses their unique challenges while building on strength. Special education law mandates that students with disabilities receive individualized instruction designed to provide a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. For literacy, this means assessment-driven instruction, evidence-based methods, appropriate accommodations and modifications, and systematic progress monitoring. Common disabilities affecting literacy include specific learning disabilities in reading, dyslexia characterized by unexpected, difficult with accurate and fluent word recognition despite adequate instructional language disorder affecting vocabulary, grammar, and discourse skills, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Impacting sustained attention and task completion, autism spectrum disorder, sometimes involving hyperlexia, word reading ahead of comprehension, or pragmatic language challenges and intellectual disabilities requiring a modified curriculum and extended learning timelines. Explicit systematic instruction. Students with disabilities benefit from highly structured sequential teaching that leaves nothing to chance. Break skills into small steps. Teaches each explicitly, provide extensive practice and review continuously. Use task analysis to identify prerequisite skills and teach them systematically. Inter Intensive practice and review require more repetitions to master skill than typically developing peers. Build and distributed practice spaced over time, cumulative review, and overlearning practice beyond initial mastery to ensure retention. Use spiral review techniques, revisiting concepts regularly. Multisensory approaches are particularly crucial for students with learning disabilities who often process information directly than neurotypical learners. Engage multiple senses, provide concrete manipulatives, and incorporate movement to strengthen learning. Assistive technology, text-to-speech software, audiobooks, word prediction programs, and graphic organizers again, cumulative reading periods while students develop skills, preventing them from falling behind in content areas while literacy intervention progresses. Developing appropriate literacy goals within IEPs requires collaboration among generation and special educators, specialists, parents, and students. Goals must be individualized based on present performance levels, measurable to track progress objectively, achievable within 1 year, yet ambitious enough to close gaps, relevant to students' needs and age appropriate expectations, and the time bound with specific timelines. For example, by May 2024, given grade 3 reading passages, Sarah will read 100 words correct per minute with 95% accuracy on 3 consecutive probes as measured by curriculum-based measurements. Goals should address areas of deficit while considering the whole literacy profile. A student might need goals targeting decoding, fluency, vocabulary, and written expression simultaneously. Goals should also include strategies for generalization, ensuring skills transfer to real reading and writing contexts beyond intervention sessions. Practical applications of research-based methods for diverse learners might include Wilson Reading System or Orton Gillingham for students with dyslexia, providing systematic cumulative phonics instruction. Linda Mood phoneme sequencing for students with severe phonological processing deficit. Read naturally for fluency, building through repeated reading with progress monitoring. On strategic instruction model for teaching comprehensive strategies to adolescents. The key is matching method to need, implementing with fidelity, monitoring progress continuously, and adjusting when data indicates insufficient growth. Students with disabilities can make remarkable literacy gains when instruction is tailored to their learning profiles, intensive enough to address skill gaps and sustained over time. Success requires commitment to evidence-based practice, collaboration across professionals, and unwavering belief in each student's potential to become a capable reader and writer. Literacy and technology integration. Technology has revolutionized the literacy education, offering unprecedented opportunities for personalized instruction, engaging practice, and access to diverse texts. Digital literacy, the ability to find, evaluate, use, and create information using technology, has become essential alongside traditional print literacy. Effective integration of technology enhances rather than replace sound instructional practice, providing tools that extend teacher reach and silent engagements. Adaptive learning platforms, programs like Lexia, Ready, and Imagine Learning adjust a difficulty based on student performance, providing individualized skill practice. These platforms offer immediate feedback, track progress meticulously, and free teachers to work with small groups while other students practice independently. Digital reading materials, ebooks, audiobooks, and interactive texts provide adjustable font sizes, text to speech support, embedded definitions, and multimedia enhancements. Struggling readers access grade level content through audio support while building skills. Digital libraries offer unlimited instant access to diverse texts. Writing support tools, word processors with spelling, grammar checkers, word prediction, speech to text, and organizational tools scaffold the writing process. Students with disabilities particularly benefit from assistive technology, allows them to produce longer, higher quality compositions than handwriting permits. Selecting appropriate digital resources requires critical evaluation of evidence-based alignment to standards, quality of instruction, and accessibility features. Educators should ask, does research support this program's effectiveness? Does it teach phonics systematically? If claiming to address decoding, does it provide explicit instruction or just practice? Can it accommodate diverse learners with modifications? Is data reporting useful for instructional decision making? Beware of flashy programs with weak instructional design. Some popular apps emphasize entertainment over learning, provide insufficient practice for mastery, or teach through implicit methods unlikely to reach struggling learners. Others use adaptive algorithms that keep students in comfortable zones without pushing growth. The most effective technology complements explicit teacher instruction rather than attempting to replace it. Technology should amplify great teaching, not automate poor teaching. The most powerful literacy tool, enhance teacher-student interaction, provide data to inform instruction, and engage students in authentic reading and writing for meaningful purposes. Some examples of self-paced technology-enhanced literacy programs include Reading Horizons, combining software with teacher-led lessons for systematic phonics instruction, Newszilla, offering leveled current events articles that build backgrounds in knowledge and comprehensive, and Comelet, providing high quality literature with embedded vocabulary support and comprehensive questions. Programs like these works best within comprehensive literacy frameworks rather than as standalone curricula. Technology integration also enables powerful literacy practices difficult without digital tools. Students can collaborate on shared documents, access primary sources worldwide, create multimedia compositions, and connect with authentic audiences for their writing through blogs or e-portfolios. Digital annotation tools help students interact actively with texts, while research databases teach information literacy skills. However, technology integration requires internationality about digital citizenship, screen time balance, and equity. Not all students have device access at home, and screen fatigue is real. Through thoughtful educators blend digital and traditional methods, use technology purposefully rather than consistently, teach responsible online behavior, and ensure technology access doesn't celebrate, sorry, exacerbate rather than remediate achievement gaps. When you use this strategically, technology becomes a powerful ally in developing literate, digitally fluent citizens prepared for the 21st century demands. Critical literacy and multicultural perspectives. Critical literacy moves beyond functional reading and writing to questioning, analyzing, and challenging texts, recognizing that all texts represent particular perspectives and serve certain interests. This approach prepares students to be active, critical consumers and the customers of and creators, sorry, of information rather than passive recipients. In an era of information overload and media manipulation, critical literacy skills are essential for informed citizenship and social justice. Questioning author intent. Critical readers ask, who created this text? What is their purpose? Whose perspectives are included or excluded? what assumptions underlie the message, teaching students to integrate rather than simply accept texts, develops analytical thinking. Examining power relations, text reflect and reproduce social hierarchies. Critical literacy involves recognizing how language constructs identities, whose voices are privileged, and how dominant narratives marginalize others. Students analyze stereotypes, bias, and systematic inequities represented in texts. Taking social action, critical literacy is ultimately transformative, not just analytical. Students use literacy to understand and address social issues, advocating for change through writing letters, creating media, and participating in civic discourse. Exploring diverse children's literature enriches all students' understanding while affirming the experiences of marginalized groups. Traditional literary canons have centered the white male European perspectives, rendering invisible the stories of people, color, LGBTQ individuals, people with disabilities, and other underrepresented groups. Contemporary educators curate classroom libraries reflecting demographic diversity in terms of authors, characters, and experiences represented. Quality multicultural literature avoids stereotypes, provides authentic representations, often written by own voices authors, addresses complex themes honestly, and showcases characters from diverse groups in varied roles, not always as victims or stereotypes, but as fully recognized humans in diverse circumstances. Books like the Crossover by Queen Alexander, Inside Out and Back Again by Thania Lay, El Defue by Cispel, and Let's Stop on Market Street by Matt De La Pena provide windows into different experiences while also offering mirrors where students see themselves reflected. Culturally relevant pedagogy, developing by Gloria's Ladson, Billings. Culturally relevant teaching acknowledges students' cultural backgrounds as assets, building bridges between home and school knowledge. This approach increases engagement and achievement, particularly for students from historically marginalized groups. Illiteracy, culturally relevant pedagogy means selecting text reflecting students' lives, incorporating cultural knowledge and experiences into discussions, validating home languages and dialects, and connecting reading and writing to community issues. Teachers learn about students' cultures rather than making assumptions, invite family literacy practice into classrooms, and frame learning as collaborative meaning making rather than transmission of dominant culture knowledge. Addressing language ideologies. Language ideologies, beliefs about language that reflect social hierarchies profoundly affect literacy education. Ideologies positioning standard English as proper while stigmatizing dialects as incorrect damage students who speak marginalized varieties, ethno-linguistic nationalism, the alignment of national identity with particular language forms, excludes multilingualism or multilinguals and dialect speakers from full participation. Critical literacy instruction makes these ideologies visible for integration. Students examine how power relates to language, why certain varieties are privileged. And how language policing maintains social inequalities. This critical consciousness empowers students to make informed choices about language use while resisting deficit perspectives about their home languages. Implementing critical literacy might involve analyzing news coverage of the same event from different sources, identifying bias and perspectives, examining advertising techniques and creating counter advertisements, investigating whose stories are told in history textbooks, and researching excluded narratives, or reading young adult literature addressing social issues like racism, immigration, or LGBTQ plus rights, and taking action on related community issues. These approaches develop sophisticated literacy skills, analysis, evaluation, synthesis, while fostering engaged ethical citizens committed to equity and justice. Language literacy and identity. Language is not merely a communication tool, but a fundamental aspect of personal and cultural identity. The ways we speak, our accents, dialects, vocabulary choices, discourse styles, signal groups membership, and reflect our backgrounds, values, and experiences for students. Language and the literacy are deeply intertwined with questions of who they are and who they can become, making the classroom treatment of linguistic diversity profoundly consequential for identity development and academic success. Home language, the languages learned from family, carrying emotional renaissance and cultural connection. Digital language, online communication styles, text, speak, and social media literacy. Social language, academic English with formal registers and discipline specific vocabularies. Peer language, slang youth, vernaculars, and social group makers that signal belonging. Community language, local dialects, and ways of speaking reflecting regional or ethnic identity. How language shapes social and cultural identity and literacy contexts emerged powerfully in classrooms where students navigate between home and school languages. Bilingual students often describe feeling like different people in different languages, each associated with particular identities, relationships, and cultural values. Similarly, speakers of stigmatized dialects may experience cognitive dissonance when school devalues their home language while demanding proper English. Literacy practices themselves signals identity, reading certain books, writing in particular styles, and in engaging with specific genres mark us as certain kinds of people, intellectuals, gamers, fans, activists. When schools narrow literacy to academic texts and formal essays, they implicitly communicate that other literacy practices, comic books, fan fiction, social media are less valuable, potentially alienating students whose identity center around those practices. The impact of language attitudes on student engagement and achievement cannot be overstated. Students whose language is disrespected or corrected consistently often disengage from literacy and learning. receiving an implicit message that they themselves are deficient. Research shows that explicit or implicit denigration of home languages harms self-esteem, academic motivation, and achievement. Conversely, when teachers value linguistic diversity, students engage more deeply and achieve at higher levels. To reject a person's language is to reject a person's because language is the means by which we make ourselves understood, share our thoughts and feelings, and claims our identity. Educator and researcher De Django Paris. Strategies to affirm linguistic diversity in the classroom include explicitly teaching about language variations as normal and systematic, inviting students to code switching between contexts rather than demanding abandonment of home language, incorporating texts in multiple languages and dialects, having students document and analyze language use in their communities, invite family members to share stories in home languages and discussing language attitudes and biases openly. Teachers might create multilingual word walls, encourage students to write in home languages, or have students teach peers words and phrases from their linguistic backgrounds. For example, a teacher might introduce a unit on language and identity by having students map their linguistic repertoires, all the languages, dialects, and registers they use in different contexts. Students might analyze when they code switch and why, becoming conscious of their linguistic flexibility as an asset. Class discussions might explore questions like why do certain ways of speaking have more prestige? How do our language choices communicate aspects of identity? How can we honor home languages while building academic English proficiency? And so on. This approach doesn't mean abandoning structure in standard English, which remains essential for academic and professional opportunities. Rather, it frames such instruction as additive, expanding students' linguistic repertories rather than subtractive, replacing home language with school language. When students feel their full linguistic identities are welcomed and valued, they bring more of themselves to literacy learning, engage more authentically, and develop both pride and in their heritage and competence in academic discourse. Literacy education that honors language and identity prepares students not just for reading and writing success, but for navigating diverse contexts while maintaining authentic sense of self. Summary and course reflection. This comprehensive exploration of literacy linguistics has eliminated the powerful connections between understanding language structure and effectively teaching reading and writing. As we conclude, let's synthesize key concepts and consider how this knowledge transforms literacy and instruction in meaningful or lasting ways. Throughout this course, we have explored how phonological awareness, morphological knowledge, syntactic understanding, and semantic development interweave to enable literacy. We have examined the science of reading as a convergent evidence demonstrating that uh, effective instruction must be systematic, explicit and grounded in understanding language structure. We've confirmed how language variations, dialect, and the multilingualism affect literacy learning, recognizing linguistic diversity as asset rather than obstacle when instruction honors and builds upon students' existing um, language resources. We've delved into assessment, understanding that data-driven instruction transforms teaching from intuitive guesswork into responsive science, allowing us to target precisely what each student needs rather than delivering one-size-fits-all curriculum. We've explored how to design evidence-based instruction, integrating multisensory techniques, scaffolded support, and strategic technology use. We've considered the special education contexts where linguistic knowledge enables appropriate adaptation and the critical importance of cultural relevance and critical literacy in preparing students for informed, engaged citizenship. Linguistic components, phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, and semantics working together for literacy success, assessment type, screening, progress, monitoring, and diagnostic assessment informing responsive instruction, growth potential. Every student can become a capable reader with appropriate, sustained, evidence-based instruction. Perhaps most importantly, we've recognized that literacy in instruction is never neutral. It always reflects values about language, culture, and whose ways of knowing matter. Educators committed to equity must integrate their assumptions, honor students' home languages, and literacy, and teach critical literacy skills, enabling students to question and challenge texts rather than passively accepting dominant narratives. Um, as you move forward in your literacy education journey, carry these principles with you. Ground instructions in linguistic understanding, because teaching reading requires um, knowing how language works, use assessment systematically, because data reveals what students need and whether instruction is working. Honor linguistics and the cultural diversity, because all language varieties are valid and students' identities are inseparable from their language. Maintain high expectations, because all students can learn to read and write proficiently with appropriate instruction. Stay current with research, because our field continuously evolves with new insights about effective practice. This course has profound foundations, provided foundations, but expertise develops through ongoing inquiry and application. Continue asking questions, seeing answers in research and practice, collaborating with colleagues, and reflecting critically on your instruction. The intersection of literacy and linguistics offers endless, fascinating puzzles to solve and the profound opportunities to transform students' lives. Every child who learns to read opens doors to knowledge, opportunity, and self-determination. Your linguistic knowledge are skilled. A responsive instruction can be the key that opens those doors. May you find joy in teaching literacy, fulfillment in witnessing student growth, and pride in knowing your work builds a foundation for student futures. The literacy linguistics journey continues. Embrace ongoing learning, celebrate your students' achievements and trust in the transformative power of effective, equitable, linguistically informed literacy instruction. Thank you so much for watching me teaching you one of the most wonderful subjects in your first year in English department, literacy linguistics. Until next time, that's all for now.